Welcome to the Pitchside Chronicles. I am Tats. I am here with Rob and Donald. And as much as I am trying to compose myself at this moment, we are not happy fans right now. We will be breaking it all down. Let's just get into it right here on the Pitchside Chronicles. All right, welcome back to the Pitchside Chronicles. I am Tats. I'm here with Rob and Donald, and we all saw this coming. That's the reality of it. You know, we wanted to keep a little bit of optimism and hope, but when you're down 3-0, that is a near impossible task. I always try to say nothing's impossible but improbable. But this was impossible. That team was just, they gave you no hope whatsoever that they were going to pull this off. They really didn't. And I blame everybody. I don't think there's one person except, unless your name is Bader, nobody showed up. I think, on the offensive side, I think Bader really was the shining star. And what's your guys' thoughts, feelings, frustrations?
I guess I'll
go. Well, where
first.
do we want to start?
Yeah.
What's the first thing that comes to your mind? Mine is just I want to break something.
I'm numb to it. I really didn't care. I saw it coming. Once we lost game 3 the way we did, just a terrible output of, I don't even want what kind of brand of baseball you want to call it. I had no faith that they were going to win this game yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, there's no way, even if they win, what's going to happen? Let's say they win the next 2. They go back to Houston, they're going to lose anyway. They got the mental skills coach showing highlights of the 04 ALCS to the Yankees. They're saying, hey, remember that time we did something really embarrassing? Like, how does this happen? What are we doing here? And then you can point at the manager and say he was bad. He was. You can point at the players, and the entire lineup outside of Bader and Rizzo as well were terrible. I can't put this on the pitching because every single postseason it's the same thing. They don't hit. They just don't hit. And a lot needs to change. And if they don't make those changes immediately, it's going to be the same old song and dance because the organization is so behind the 8 ball. Look at Houston's whole front office was hired in like 2018 or later. The Yankees, 1999, 2004, like Gene Afterman, all these old people. Fishman has been here far too long. They need to go. Everyone needs to go. They need to clean out the system top to bottom and get some fresh blood in here that's going to actually, progress this team forward because there's too much talent here on the roster and in the farm system for us to be getting swept in the ALCS.
Donald.
I don't think Al Steinbrenner has a stomach for it, but that's 100% what needs to happen. So let's go through it. When we got through Cleveland, or actually, to be honest, going into the last 2 elimination games against Cleveland, I actually thought we were going to get through it, but I thought we were going to get whitewashed by Houston. What this postseason showed me was that this team wasn't ready for the postseason. They were managing like they had infinite series ahead of them. Like they were willingly taking games off in terms of their bullpen in order to manage future games. Now, that's how you do things in the 162-game regular season when you've got, we've got next month, we've got August, we've got September. Now, you're in October. This is like crapshoot baseball. This is like every game matters. Nothing is promised tomorrow. And Aaron Boone was managing it like he had years, a whole year ahead. It was bizarre because he even said at one point saying, IKS going to have a big role to play over the next few weeks. And that was when he was saying it when we had an elimination game. So he was managing it like he had an infinite amount of time. And the way that he managed the lineups, the rotation, the bullpens, the in-game management, it was disorganized It was chaotic. It was lost. And the players played like it. The players played like, I'll be honest, shit all postseason, right? Garrett Cole carried them to at least 2 wins, right? And and what, we won one more game after that in the entire playoffs. So Garrett Cole, you can thank Garrett Cole for basically our wins in the postseason. The rest, this team played like crap. They were terrible defensively. They just looked completely lost. Offensively, they were a joke. I mean, they struck out on every single curveball they could possibly throw at them. They were swinging through their shoes. I've never seen anything quite like it. And there was zero adjustments at any point. This is a terribly managed ball club. Terribly managed. And it's not just Aaron Boone, because he's just we like to use the word puppet. Don LaGreca calls him an actor pretending to be a manager. That's what he said in Michael K's show a couple of weeks ago, and he's absolutely spot on. He's an actor. He's just doing what the organization wants him to do. It starts with Brian Cashman. Brian Cashman sunk the team with that trade. The Josh Donaldson IKF trade killed the team before they got started. And from that point on, the Yankees have been having to manage despite those two players. Let's be honest, IKF has done a horrible job. Josh Donaldson's done a largely horrible job. And if we didn't have Aaron Judge's 10 WAR or whatever it was, this Yankee team would have won about 85 games and probably wouldn't have made the wild card game. Aaron Judge and little bits of Nestor and a little bit of Garrett Cole here and there. And that was the reason why we won the division. Now, as for the postseason, I think Rizzo should be proud of his performance. I think Stanton, for the large part, should be happy with his performance. And Bader should be delighted with his performance. Everybody else? Oh, and Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole is phenomenal. Full credit to Garrett Cole. And also Wandy Peralta. He was being ridden like Seabiscuit through the entire playoffs because Aaron Boone didn't know who else to turn to. He could maybe hold his head up high. The rest of them should all be ashamed of themselves. They were all a complete disaster, apart from Severino, although Severino was really good too. A lot of them should be ashamed of themselves. It was a complete and utter disaster, complete mess. This whole thing needs to be this whole thing needs a guy that cares. No more excuses. We need someone that cares about this team, cares about this franchise, cares about the fan base, and then just goes through it like a fine-tooth comb, going, right, this is not working. This isn't working. This is sunk cost. This is dead cost. This is terribly managed. This guy isn't doing his job. Get rid of all that shit, and then you start from scratch and get this thing fixed.
Well, even the organization saw that this was coming because you saw, what was it? They didn't even finish, making the out call for the last out yesterday, and Yankees Twitter account saying, appreciation to the fans. It's like, did you have this in the drafts because you knew this was going to happen? That I thought was a freaking terrible look. I mean, they didn't hesitate to put that tweet out. But let's get to some of these comments here. And from Spencer, getting swept is absolutely humiliating. In 2012, when the Tigers swept us, I saw that coming, but did not see this coming. For me, I thought it was the other way around this time.
Yeah. I saw this going.
Yeah. Once you saw in the 30 strikeouts in 2 games, the writing was on the wall. There was still, the lower probabilities was still gave you something in your favor, but it wasn't going to happen. Going down 3-0.
I can date back to the no-hitter, man. When we got no-hit by the Astros at Yankee Stadium, I remember shouting that this was a fake first place team. And they've done nothing to disprove that after that. They looked completely lost. They tanked the rest of the summer, barely scraped their way through to win the division, and then got to the playoffs and completely humiliated themselves in the playoffs. They should have been ousted by a team with a $60 million payroll that had punch and Judy hitters, but quite honestly, were far outmanaged us. But we sneaked through because of Garrett Cole, and then the luck ran out. and we got what we deserved, man. This team didn't deserve to face the Astros. They're not even in the same. They're not even in the same conversation. The Astros are well managed. They've got a good general manager, got a really good manager. They've got guys that know the roles. They've got depth. They've got pitching depth. They're analytically driven, but they use their analytics in the right way. The Yankees use it in everything but. And that's just the reality of it, right? Now, I know the Yankees are going to sell us that, it was injuries. Oh, it was injuries. Oh, it was a bit of bad luck. Oh, it was the weather. It was the rain delays. Oh, it was the wind.
It's the roof.
It was the roof. Oh, and they'll use all kinds of excuses, but in reality, the excuses are a loser's lament. Yeah. They got out-managed from the top to the bottom, and that's the reality of it.
No, they had that one before the season came out. No excuses, no this, no that. Then when the playoffs started, no excuses, no this or that. They made an excuse after game one.
Every single game, yeah.
They made an excuse every single game. So the organization is a joke, really. It's laughable what they've become. Yeah, we've had winning season after winning season, and as a Yankee fan, a lot of people will tell you guys are spoiled. Yeah, of course I'm spoiled because I expect this team to go win the World Series every year. They have the second or third highest payroll every single season. They should be using it better. And I'm not going to go back and say they should have signed Harper, they should have signed Machado, but they could have. Because look at the money that those two are making combined is $3 million more than what Donaldson, Chapman, and Hicks count for against the luxury tax.
No, I see the whole argument with going back for Machado and Harper, and yeah, they would have been nice additions. But to go back all those years, to put, to highlight what went wrong this year, I think is kind of a new point.
I'm just saying that they used the money poorly. That's what I'm saying. Look at how they used the money. Yeah. Okay. Because you want to go back to this offseason, they could have had Correa. And guess what they did? They didn't. They got Donaldson and IKF, who count for about, 20-some-odd million against the luxury tax. Spend another $10 million or whatever. You can do it. You're the Yankees. You could have had Correa. You could have used this money, and it goes back to all different off seasons. I'm not saying it's Harper and Machado specifically, but they missed out on those two. They missed out on trading for Garrett Cole in 2018. They missed out on Corbin when he was a hot free agent. I'm glad we didn't get him because he's been terrible, but hindsight's a different game. They missed out on different player after different player. They didn't trade prospects when they should have traded prospects. 2017 was the best year that they've had because they didn't have any expectations. And then they could have just ran it back, same manager, same staff, same team, and said, gear up for 2019 because that's the big fish free agency market. But they got Stanton. When they got Stanton, they told the fans, we're back and we're going for it. And then they didn't. They made that one move and said, we got to save money now. How do you do that? You don't make that move. I love the Stanton trade, but if we're going to play hindsight, maybe you don't make that move and you just gear up for 2019. Because they could have ran it back the same team as 2017 and just been like, hey, we're competitive at least. It's further than we thought we would be after just 1 year. And then you gear up for 2019. And because the money checks out, look at the way they've spent it. Jay Happ, Zach Britton, Aroldis Chapman twice, Aaron Hicks. Now it's Donaldson, IKF. The way they're using the money compared to the way they could have used the money, that's why people keep bringing up Harper and Machado and past failures because they have so much money. Hal Steinbrenner is not cheap. I can't call him cheap because look at our payroll, but look at how his GM and his assistant GM and the whole idiots that are behind him use it. They don't use it right. Aaron Judge is going to hit free agency and we're paying Josh Donaldson $25 million next year. How does that look for an organization?
No, and the bad look is really what they did with Peraza. They finally added him to the ALCS roster. You saw him for a game? And then you went right back to what was not working. It wasn't working with IKF for short.
Fantastic point.
The organization
cost us
nobody to blame it themselves. They screwed us over as fans. They gave us false hope and stuck it up our ass. I've had enough. Cashman, fire everybody. Everybody. Randy Levine, fire them all. I don't give a shit where they end up. But get them out of New York because we are tired of it.
Well said. I mean, listen, you're spot with this shortstop carousel. I've never seen we had 3 different shortstops in 3 straight games. Are you out of your freaking mind? Who thought that was a good idea? We had 4 different leadoff hitters.
The
4
notebook
different
nerds
cleanup
thought
hitters.
it was a great idea. This was the strategy that was going to trick everybody, but it was a colossal failure.
Aaron Boone had no idea what he was doing, not a single clue. He was more worried about the feelings of IKF and Brian Cashman connected to IKF because it was Brian Cashman's baby, that trade. He was more worried about that than winning the Yankees games because the one game that he had Peraza play short and the ALCS, Peraza made 2 or 3 sensational plays. Not just good plays, but sensational plays at short. Far too good for the Yankees, though. The Yankees are like, oh, that's going to upset our narrative. That's going to upset our narrative that he's not ready. Ignored him for the rest of the series. Completely ignored him. Brought back IKF, who is clearly struggling defensively and mentally and psychologically. And what did he do? He blew the game last night. I'm not even blaming Gleyber Torres. It was a toss-up ball in his direction, and somehow IKF took the wrong route to the ball and missed it, and then the Astros ended up scoring and lost us the game.
Yeah, if
how many runs did IKF cost the Yankees this playoffs? For crying out loud, how many runs did he cost them? And Aaron Boone continued to make excuses for him. I mean, what are we doing? People's livelihoods depend. People who work for the Yankees, I don't care what position you are. People who work for the Yankees, their livelihoods depend on the Yankees doing well, right? And Aaron Boone willingly fucking screwed them out of the playoffs because what was he doing? Because he had no idea who to play it short, no idea who's leading off, no idea who's cleaning up, no idea who's playing left field. It was all just throwing it up against the wall, bish, bash, bosh, we'll wait and see. Fans were paying an absolute truckload to go and see this team, and that's what they got. Slop all through the playoffs. And I'm sure we're going to get excuses, but I'm not taking excuses anymore. I knew this team was done. I knew this team was done when they got no hit at home against the Astros. But I was willing to give them a mulligan. But then once we played like absolute nonsense against Cleveland, and then Aaron Boone told us that the reason why Peraza didn't make the ALDS is because he'd only be used as a second pinch runner. A second pinch runner when he was your best shortstop. This is what's broken about this team. Who did the Astros have at shortstop?
A rookie. Think about that for a second.
Rookie.
They let Carlos Correa walk, a platinum glove winning shortstop. They let him walk. They said, we have someone to call up in his place. They let Springer walk a couple of years ago. And Chas McCormick is making big hit after big hit in the postseason. They let Correa go. He is one of the best, if not the best shortstops in baseball. They let him walk. And this guy they replaced him with had a great season. He won the ALCS MVP. And it's ridiculous. How are they doing this? They brought in IKF. They said, we like him at shortstop. It was clear as day he wasn't a very good shortstop because he wasn't a year ago. Once Peraza was ready and they did not trade him during the deadline, he should have been up, and they didn't do it. They waited until September 1st, and then they still didn't play him every single day. And even when he played every day, he was the clear best shortstop on the roster, and they still went with IKF despite everybody except for the Yankees knowing it wasn't the right move. And it cost us a chance to win the ALDS earlier than we did, and it cost us last night for at least extending the season one more day. It continued to cost us. How do you not make that move? The Astros are doing it. They've been in the ALCS every godforsaken year since 2017, and they're doing it. Sorry, I burped. They did, but they're doing it. We're not. We're rolling with IKF, who the Texas Rangers said, we don't need him anymore.
And the Twins.
And the Twins. 2 teams said, we don't want this guy. The Yankees said,
the same freaking offseason.
The Twins got rid of him before he unpacked his bag.
I know.
You know, they didn't even wait to realize they made a mistake. No, let's chip him off to the Yankees with a dead bat, freaking third baseman. And I don't want to criticize John Donaldson's third base play. He did very well. He should be on the Gold Glove list. But that's another discussion. But his bat, he can't swing the bat anymore. He can't read the pitches. He's swinging at everything, or just sitting there with the bat on his shoulder when there's a fastball right there, ready for him to hit it out of the park. So it just adds, and it just adds to the frustration. It just adds to everything. Yeah, Miguel's right. Boom. Yeah,
They're so bad.
It,
Josh Donaldson sucks. He's been so bad since the start of the season. I don't care about his glove because Gio Urshela would have given you more defense.
Yeah.
DJ LeMahieu, had they just ran it back with Urshela at short and DJ at third, they would have had the exact same output. And Gio would have been better than IKF, and DJ would have been just as good as Donaldson because the stats tell you DJ was actually really good at third base this year. Donaldson was slightly better, but DJ analytically was really good at third, and you would have been better this year. You would have had the same record, guarantee it.
Yeah, maybe even and you wouldn't have had this carousel of what days is one of our infielders going to get a day off, or which day is DJ LeMahieu not going to play. I mean, that the way that trade transpired just completely made no sense at all. They brought in 2 third basemen in the same trade. IKF is a backup third baseman, and they brought in another third baseman and inherited $26 million of Josh Donaldson, not including whatever IKF cost you. And so you brought in 2 third basemen, and you take on Gary Sanchez's $6 million. I mean, if you were just going to get rid of him, part of that awful trade, why did you even just pick up that $6 million in the first place? If you had if that had little value, you might as well just use it towards Carlos Correa, or just don't do anything at all. That's what's crazy. As Rob says, you didn't even need to do anything at all. Sometimes not making a move is better than making a really stupid move, because that is the stupidest move the Yankees have made in 20 years.
But it's like when I went on my rant about the trade, last week or so, and I'm like, all of that to get rid of Gary Sanchez.
Yeah.
Where you guys pointed out that all they had to do was cut him.
Yep.
You could have just traded him by himself, see who grabbed him. Somebody's always going to be looking for a catcher, even if it's for a backup or a backup to a backup. You can get something out of it. We ended up getting what? We ended up getting our hearts broken again.
They got 3 players who weren't that good. Like IKF is a third baseman. He's a utility infielder that's fine off the bench. I'm okay with that, but not as the everyday shortstop for an entire season and in the playoffs. Gary Sanchez, if they wanted to just run it back, and you could have still had Trevino because it cost you a relief pitcher that was going to be DFA'd anyway. So, that's all they had to do was just improve catcher. The infield would have been just as good with Rizzo, Torres, Gio, DJ. And it would have been better, actually. Would have been better. And then the outfield would have stayed the same going into the season.
Yeah, and then when Peraza was ready by midsummer, he becomes your shortstop, and then you can use Gio as a utility guy. This team would have been much better and less idiotic, because Josh Donaldson was more of a distraction than he was a positive. Yeah. I mean, when the Yankees were winning like 85% of their games, Josh Donaldson caused mayhem within the locker room by that stupid fight that he caused that sparked the whole thing. I mean, this dude was more of a distraction than he was a positive. What did he give us apart from 1 grand slam? I can't think of anything that he actually did which was positive on the field. I know he played decent third base, but as I say, Gio Urshela could have done that. He could have played it. I mean, maybe not to the same metric standard, but not far off. It certainly wouldn't have been worth what we had to take on, and how we're going to somehow get rid of that contract this coming summer, which we have to do.
They got to cut him.
It's such a mess.
Just eat the money. If they were able to eat the last 2 years of A-Rod's deal, they got to cut Donaldson. He can't be here next year.
No, you can't. Neither can IKF.
I wouldn't mind if he was like on the bench, but yeah, the fans are gonna. He's got to go too. He needs to change the scenery. They got to clean house. They got to get rid of maybe Torres. I don't like to even say this, but maybe because they're penny pinching, maybe they explore moving Stanton. I don't know if anyone would take him, but you're gonna have to make something happen, because even if with all the money coming off the books, if they pay Judge and the arbitration players, they're only gonna have maybe like $20 million to spend on positions that they need. So they might have to move some money around, and there's not many people. No one's gonna take Aaron Hicks. So You got to find a way to move contracts. Maybe Stanton becomes available. I don't want to see it happen, but you might have to. If Rizzo opts in as well, then you're going to
I
need
think that no trade is going to stop. Yeah, I think Stanton's going to put his feet in the ground, going, "No, I'm here to see this through."
I don't want to see him go. I love Stanton. He's the only guy that shows up in October, and that includes Aaron Judge. Sorry, but I mean, I still don't blame Aaron Judge for this postseason. We have no idea how exhausting it would be to carry a ball club for an entire season by himself, which he had to do. Then he had to deal with the mental stress of a home run chase, which again, we cannot quantify how tiring that is. Roger Maris, he lost hair because of the stress of making it to 61. He was getting gray. He aged like 5 years during that freaking year because of the stress of it. It's not an easy thing to do, and Aaron Judge had to do it as well as carry an entire ball club by himself. Roger Maris had Mickey Mantle to help pick up the slack.
Down goes Donald. So no, but to what he was saying,
that was your entire offense.
No. You back?
That was your entire offense. So.
All right. No, the pressures that Judge was under, the stress was gonna get to him at some point. You know, as much as he tries to remain professional, he's well spoken. He very almost never puts his foot in his mouth. He speaks very well for the team, for the organization, and what the organization stands for. What everybody has their hiccup, and the pressure he was on the postseason was just that level of pressure that just kind of broke him a little bit. But it's not like I would be as naive to say that we don't need him on this team because he can't play in October. I think he's the one player that's the exception to that.
It's the only reason we got to October. So.
Yeah, but that's the key. We don't have this. We're not pissed off if he doesn't do what he does in the regular season.
Yeah, you can thank him obviously for everything he did because the Yankees don't get here without him. But you can also be critical and say, you're our best player. But Ron Blomberg put it on Twitter, and he put it so perfectly. The Yankees lineup goes as Aaron Judge goes. So if he's not hitting, the rest of the lineup isn't going to hit because you can pitch around every single guy in this lineup.
Easily.
You can pitch around them. If you can attack Judge, and if you're getting Judge out, you don't have to worry about anybody else. And I love Rizzo. I love Stanton. I love what Bader gave us this postseason. I like Torres, but none of these guys are like, oh my God. Maybe if Stanton's hot, then yeah, you got to worry about him. But you're not worrying about the rest of these guys. If you get Aaron Judge out, you've got the Yankees in a freaking stranglehold because they can't hit. If Judge isn't hitting, the rest of the lineup follows suit.
That's right. I mean, listen, you get Rizzo, you get Stanton out, you can pitch around Judge, and that is it. That is finito. I'm sorry. We did not have the depth of offense this year. That's why we were so lucky to get what we got from Matt Carpenter. When Matt Carpenter went down, suddenly we lost a lot of protection for guys because we were suddenly struggling for offense. And we couldn't score any runs. We couldn't spray together hits because this team doesn't make contact. Because of this whole philosophy of hit strikes hard. But in reality, the Yankees are staring at strikes right down the middle of the plate. And they're trying to swing at like curveballs like they're going on a golf tournament. And they're swinging out of their shoes. And it's a bizarre philosophy. But again, I can't necessarily blame the batting coach because we've been through a ton of batting coaches because it's an organizational thing. It comes from Brian Cashman and the analytic nerds.
I think with the way that they analyze, they work the analytics, you can have Bernie Williams as the hitting coach, and you're not going to see much of an improvement because it's not going to be the hitting coach's fault. They're too locked into this philosophy.
They are. They're obsessed with the exit velo. Oh, well, my hit went 110 miles an hour.
Who cares?
It's just bad luck. How does that not count, but a 90-mile-an-hour single does? That's just not fair. Shut
Right.
up.
All right. Well, that's gonna do it for us on Roku. So just hang tight. We will be right back.
Oh, we're still here.
Yeah.
Oh, we're still here. But no, the whole exit velocity thing, I'm very pro analytics. I am. I will never knock it because it's done a lot for a lot of teams. Like Seattle, they use analytics, and look where it got them this year. Houston uses it, and they've been the best team in baseball since 2017. The Dodgers use it, and they also use the payroll. Everybody, the Phillies, look at the Phillies. They spend the money, and they also use analytics, and they went from being a below 500 team to now they're going to the World Series. So teams use analytics. It is very good for the sport, but the Yankees try to use it, and they try to be better than you, and they're not, because everybody in their front office is ancient compared to the rest of baseball. Even people that were hired in like 2007, that's too damn long ago to say, this is our analytics department. They have so many different people. They have like 30 guys working in their analytic department. And this is what they come up with. 30 people said, IKF is the shortstop. Josh Donaldson's your third baseman, and you will win more games. We won more games, but it wasn't because of those two. We know who won us the games. It was the guy that you've had since 2017, Aaron Judge. He's your best player. He's always been your best player. So I don't know.
Who they couldn't pay.
Yeah, they couldn't pay him, but they can pay Josh Donaldson all right. I don't get it. This organization is so flawed, and Cashman's contract is up, and we're probably going to find out very, very soon after the World Series whether he's back or not. And he will be back, because I have zero confidence his front office is going to say, we need to make the change, because Hal Steinbrenner's comfortable. He's making a ton of money with Brian Cashman at the helm. He's saying, you do your thing. I give you the payroll. You spend it how you want. I can't blame him because I can blame him, but I'm not going to get mad because he's saying, I'm giving you the money. People are still going to the stadiums. They're still spending the money at the stadium. Hal Steinbrenner's fine. Brian Cashman's the guy who needs to go. If Hal had a backbone and said, I'm sick of losing, he would let him go. He's been here since 98 as the GM. He's been here since way before that as part of the organization. If you want to promote him to like some big senior executive or whatever it is, but have some fresh faces be the GM and assistant GM and revamp this whole system, fine. You can keep Cashman here. But if he's the GM, we're not going to go anywhere next year either.
Well, the worst thing that could have happened to the Yankees and their narrative is the Philadelphia Phillies. Very worst thing. Let's forget about Bryce Harper for a minute, who the Yankees passed on, and Bryce Harper was desperate to be a Yankee. He was basically begging them, and the Yankees didn't even make a phone call. But forget about Bryce Harper. The worst thing that could have happened was Rob Thompson, because the Yankees are under this impression that it doesn't matter who manages, because everybody manages from upstairs. And we just need a therapist / communicator / puppet to do our managerial duties and just be a happy face to the media, right? But Rob Thompson comes in when the Phillies are done. They're out of the playoffs. They don't have a shot. They look pretty dumb. They're below 500. They're not looking too good. They fire Joe Girardi. They bring in Rob Thompson. What happens? They're in the World frickin' Series. They basically went on this incredible tear because a manager held them to account. A manager did something different, had a different approach, went after every single game. And he was talking about how his approach in the playoffs, Rob Thompson, who the Yankees had and interviewed prior to Aaron Boone, that was a mistake. You should have freaking hired him. His whole philosophy was, in the playoffs, nothing is promised tomorrow. So I'm going to use my best guys when I have a chance of winning a freaking game. And guess what? He won those games, and now he's in the World Series. What was Aaron Boone's philosophy? Oh, well, I've got this lane for Trevino because he's kind of our sixth inning guy. So we're just going to stick with that lane. We've got another lane here. We're just going to, you know what? This game, I don't really feel too good about this game. Feel better about tomorrow's game. So we'll worry about tomorrow. And we'll just tank today's game. And that's how he managed the playoffs. And the Yankees got absolutely done. So there's a difference there. Having a good manager makes a difference. If the Yankees had a Rob Thompson, I guarantee that Rob Thompson would come in and he'd sort some of this crap out. He wouldn't have players just lollygag it around. He wouldn't have players running into each other in the outfield or have the wrong people in the shift at the wrong time. He wouldn't have Garrett Cole being taken out for no frickin' reason and then put in your fourth best reliever to lose you an ALCS game. None of that would happen.
No, the one thing I would like to see, the one thing that stood out, watching like with the management and ownership, is Jennifer Steinbrenner Swindell was sitting like front row watching that mess of a game yesterday, and you could almost see like she just wanted to just go full blown mom on everybody and just whip everybody's ass and say get out. And I'm hoping that she does step up because she is a general partner. She needs to sit down with Hal and go like, you know what, you screwed Dad's legacy up enough. I'm taking over. I'm fixing this house. We're getting this back. Because I think Hal doesn't have it anymore because he keeps putting all these people in charge that either don't care because they're just getting paid, or when they make a mistake, there's no accountability. And that's one of the things we've been screaming about all year. There's no accountability for anything. Even after getting swept by the Astros, your GM, who has not brought you a championship since 2009, is just going to be able to walk into a brand new contract, no questions asked. That's why nobody takes this organization seriously anymore. That's why we're not a threat anymore.
It's a joke. It really is. It's embarrassing that this is what it's become because every year, we've only been doing this show for a couple of years, but it's been the same thing. The only season we can say that we were proud of, even though we lost in the ALCS, was 2017 because no one thought we were going to get there. We far exceeded expectations. That's the only year you can say I was proud of that team. Wasn't proud of them in 2012. They didn't make the playoffs in 2013 and 2014. 2015, Astros beat us again in the wild card game. 2016, they don't make it. We knew what was happening. 2018, the Red Sox embarrassed us. The Astros get us again in 2019. 2020, they embarrassed themselves. Last year, they get destroyed in the wild card game yet again. We're not proud of them. You can't be proud of them. And I love CC Sabathia, but he came out and said this team had a great season. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. They didn't have a great season, CC. I'm sorry. When you get swept in the ALCS, there is not a single thing to be proud of. Nothing.
Aaron Judge had a great season. That's about it as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Nestor Cortez had a great season. Everybody else? No. Rizzo didn't have that great of a year, and he was one of our best players. So, there's two players that you can say these guys were outstanding, Judge and Cortez. Without those two, especially Judge, they're not in consideration for the division, and they would never even have touched the ALCS. So it was two guys out of a 26-man roster that carried you. Two.
And we're going to take a deeper dive into the pitching in tomorrow's show, and really what were the pros and cons throughout the postseason, who was effective, who wasn't, what changes would we make in the pitching staff. So we will break that all down tomorrow on Pitch Strike Chronicles. We will be wrapping things up right now. You have been watching on Northeast Streaming Sports, Sportswire Radio, Twitch, YouTube, everywhere else in between. Wear your pinstripes with pride and play hard.